guys, and welcome back to Phat Pack Magic. Now I've got some exciting news for you, and it's Vince on camera playing Bant Company against his mortal enemy, Mono Red Aggro. Now this is going to be a tough matchup for Bant because Mono Red can just get there. Matt is drawing up his hand, going through, deciding on whether or not it's good enough. Vince has decided to keep, and let's see what Matt has to offer. Putting one card down, and no, this isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! Matt isn't playing a trap card. No, he has mulled down to 5, so he's got to put 2 on the bottom, and he's got to win out this game on the play. But that isn't impossible for Mono Red because he's going to start off with a Bonecrusher. Immediately putting a face-down mountain underneath the Bonecrusher. We know it's a mountain. It's okay. We'll keep it a secret. But Vince is going to take 2 and go down to 17 to play out a Gilded Goose. One of the most devastating things an aggro deck can see, because that goose can just pump out food tokens and make their life of counting to 20 a lot harder. But Searing Blood is going to take care of that and a food token by killing off the Gilded Goose and dealing 3 damage to Vince, bringing him down to 14 as Bonecrusher swings in again, putting another card underneath, and slowly but surely should be able to gain some card advantage from Matt, who's in desperate need of it. Vince going over his turn, he's down to 13. It's already turn 2, and he played a shock land last turn, so he did a little bit of damage to himself, but he's got another goose, and that is another food token and another potential 3 life on Vince's side of the board. He passes the turn back, and the great thing about that goose is that it's going to be able to block that Bonecrusher all day, all night, every day, every night, unless there's some removal spell. Bonecrusher crashes in, and the Gilded Goose jumps in the way as the courier puts another card underneath. Matt flicking through the cards on hand, he needed another card under there. But here's something pretty cool. It's a Light Up the Stage, one of the premier FNM promos, and I love the look of it as it flips over a Shock and a Bonecrusher Giant. Something that Matt really doesn't want to see right now because he wants that goose on blocking duty. Now, Light Up the Stage costs 3 mana, unfortunately, but Matt is down to 1 card in hand, meaning that Bonecrusher is a tasty, tasty option. Vince looking through his cards. He's got a good grip. He's got Teferi. He's got Reflector Mage. He's got Hollowed Fountain. Unfortunately, that Hollowed Fountain doesn't come into play untapped, and it's going to deal 2 damage if he wants to play it out. But he's also got what looks like Oko in his grip. He's pulled the Reflector Mage to the front, and he's not going to pay life. Instead, he's going to play a food token to bounce the Bonecrusher to his hand and play land for turn, keeping those 3 cards in exile. And now Matt has to figure out a way to come back, and he can't play Bonecrusher this turn, so he can't start swinging at that. But Reflector Mage is a 2/3, meaning that it is going to be 1 chunky blocker. Matt going through his hand. He's only got 2 cards, but he's got another 2 cards. He's got a Shock and a Bonecrusher Giant. Is the plan just to start going to Vince's face and dealing with the burn? Matt decides to cash in the 2 cards for killing off the Reflector Mage, but Bonecrusher Giant is going to be on an adventure instead of just in regular exile, meaning that Matt Secord effectively drew a 4/3 for his next turn if he wants to play it out. Vince is drawn. He's able to untap that juicy little Hollowed Fountain for blue mana, and he's going to start off with the Llanowar Elves. And the question is, does he want to keep mana untapped? Because Matt has a flurry of hasty creatures coming in, and Vince is quite light on blockables. So Matt draws, and that 3 life from the food token is going to desperately change the math up on what he needs to do. But he's got a few cards in hand. Matt looking to whether or not he wants to play Mountain for turn. That's a really tough play right there. Do you want to play a Mountain? and he goes for the Wild Slash against the Elvish Mystic instead of the Gilded Goose, and plays Lava Runner into Bowmat Courier, crashes in for 3, and man, Wildborn Preserver is gonna come down as a 2-2 with reach, and it's going to be able to block that Bowmat. And he's gonna sack the Bowmat Courier to draw the card, and Vince is gonna take 2, going down to 11 with only a Get-To Lavamancer on Matt's side of the board and 1 card in hand. And Vince has got his land drops, he's got a food token, he's got a Wildborn Preserver, which is going to start being able to pump if he gets some stuff on top of it. Vince is in a good situation, but then again, Matt was down to 5 cards. Question is, I mean, would Vince be in the same situation if Matt had 2 more cards? Sometimes that's just how it goes. You've got to mulligan aggressively with Mono Red. Vince really deciding on that Deputy of Detention that he has pulled to the front. Does he want to waste it on a Get-To Lavamancer, which if the Deputy dies, it's going to have haste as it comes back into play. But he says, you know what, okay, here we go. I'm going to play the Deputy, put 2 counters on the Wildborn Preserver, and is it time to go on the offensive? Yes, it is, says Vince, as he swings in, dealing 4 damage to Matt, and he starts equalizing the life total, bringing Matt down to 16. Matt draws for turn. He's got 2 cards, and a 3rd card, which is the Bonecrusher Giant, making its way back from the adventure, and he plays a Monastery Swift Spear, but he doesn't swing in because he's on defensive right now, and that's not where you want to be in Mono Red. Vince has drawn a card, and he's going to play an Elvish Mystic for the right color. But Elvish Mystic is not a human, so the Wildborn Preserver is going to get 4 +1/+1 counters and crashes in for 8 damage at Matt. Matt can't afford to block here. He needs to maintain his offensive position, but he can't. He's like, is he going to take 8, or is he going to chump the Swift Spear and essentially concede the game? Matt says, nope, I'm all in. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to win this. And he keeps his creatures in play and goes down to 8. Matt in a desperate situation here as he goes through the cards in his hand, looking at the board. There's got to be some way out of this puzzle. This is like one of those Mythic Edition championship puzzles on Channel Fireball that they put out on Reddit every so often. So Matt swings him with the Bonecrusher Giant. The math is bad, but he's got to do it. And Vince chump blocks with the Elvish Mystic. The Mystic has done its turn, and it's basically a pump spell. Matt passes the turn back, and Vince drops Teferi. Teferi Time Raveler. For all your instant and sorcery needs, you can count on Teferi to keep your opponent from interacting with you while it's on your turn, or on combat, or during their untap upkeep step, or during their end step. In fact, they only get to play during their main phase. Teferi, he's great and he's fun. Matt, tapping 1 red mana, looking over the cards in his hand. Does he really want to play out something? He's got to do it. It's a Wild Slash. Is Matt going? He's going to kill the Gilded Goose. Matt is obviously trying to get those arena points for playing 30 red spells in a day, because what Vince is going to bounce the Monastery Swift Spear and be able to crash in for 8, and that is the game. Vince takes it 1-0, and we are going to take a quick break for our sponsors who love it when I say sweet nothings in your ear. Hey guys, I want to give a quick shout out here to Your Playmat. These guys offer fully customizable playmats, card sleeves, and foil playmats. Now, I wouldn't be talking to you guys about these mats unless I personally believed in them. So check this out. Yeah, that is the Mox Jet altar on the Phat Pack Magic draft videos, and we put that on a mat. And here's the best part. Your playmat believes in me and believes in my channel, and therefore believes in you guys. So that's why they're doing a special discount code only for Phat Pack Magic YouTube subscribers. Put in the code PPM15 and get 15% off any playmat you order. Foil, regular, anything you're looking for. PPM15. So what are you guys waiting for? Go make your own mats and show off your style. And we are back. Matt Secord and Vince are both shuffling up, getting ready to draw out their opening hands. And I have to say, Matt has a really strong game plan against Bant, but I think the mulligan down to 5 was just way too much, and Vince just having the answers for his burn spells was not a good look. But Matt is looking at his hand now, and it is a snap keep for him. He is excited. I can feel the pressure. I can feel the tension. I can feel the energy coming from him. And Vince is a little less enthused, but seems like he's going to keep. Matt starts off with a mountain, and here's a Get to Lavamancer, a 1-2 with haste if there's 2 spells, but that's fine. He doesn't need 2 spells. He can just swing in next turn. Now, Matt has sighted in some pesky removal with Lava Coil, but he's going to swing in for 1 at Vince, and that's going to be his turn. Vince plays a land and passes back as Matt decides whether or not he wants to use a burn spell at the end of turn. Instead, he's just going to play a Ramming Up Ruins, swing in for 1, bring Vince down to 18, and then he's going to tap 3, and looks like he's going to go with a Rampaging Ferocidon, an incredible creature that's really powerful against the Gilded Goose and the food tokens, but also incredibly strong against Collected Company, because it's going to, Toolcraft Exemplar is going to make it so it doesn't deal 1 damage every time a creature comes into play. However, it looks like Matt has missed that ability, and it is definitely a missed trigger because Vince did not go down to 17. Matt plays another land for turn, tapping red. Looks like he's got a shock. He does have a shock for that Toolcraft Exemplar, and he's going to follow it up with the Chain Whirler, dealing 1 damage to Vince and 1 damage to the the Fairgrounds Warden, which is going to kill that off, and it's going to bring the Ferocidon back into play. And now Matt is going to swing in for 1 damage. All that 1 damage on turn 4. Vince is comfortably at 16 life as he figures out his turn 4 play. He's got an Elvish Mystic. He's got another Fairgrounds Warden. The question is, what does he want to fire it off on? The unfortunate thing is, if he uses the Fairgrounds Warden on the Chain Whirler, the Chain Whirler is just going to deal another damage to Vince's face. But it's going to be dangerous to make any sort of blocks because whatever he... And Vince is going to play out a Hollow Fountain going down to 14. And he is going to play out that Fairgrounds Warden, which is going to remove the Rampaging Ferocidon, and again, another missed trigger. Now, it may just be that Matt doesn't understand that the Fairgrounds Warden coming into play makes the Rampaging Ferocidon trigger at the same, and then the Fairgrounds Warden ability will trigger. But Lava Coil is going to swing at the Fairgrounds Warden. However, Vince has the clutch Dive Down, giving it +0/+3 and hexproof until end of turn. A very niche card that was used in the mono blue tempo decks back in Standard with Pateramander and Curious Obsession, and now Vince is using this old school tech to start preventing some damage as he blocks the Chain Whirler with the Fairgrounds Warden, because the Fairgrounds Warden is now a 1/6. Quite relevant here. Vince has drawn a Collected Company, which is the signature card of his deck, but he's got a ton of creatures in play, and he's going to add to those ton of creatures a Deputy of Detention, which is going to tuck underneath a Goblin Chain Whirler, and he plays out an Elvish Mystic for turn. Matt in a very precocious situation here. He's got a 2/2, but they can't go through 1/3s. And he doesn't really want to start using that much removal on those creatures. He wants to use the burn at Vince's face. He's tapped 1 red here, and it looks like a Wild Slash is going to deal 2 damage to the Deputy of Detention, and a Searing Blood at the Deputy of Detention as well. It's going to deal 2 damage to it, and if the Deputy dies, then Vince will take 3 damage. But that's also going to bring back the Chain Whirler and deal 1 damage to Vince and 1 damage to that Llanowar Elf. And what a play. Because now Matt is definitely on the aggressive path. He plays out another Gitu Lava Runner, taking 1 point of damage from the Raminut Ruins, and here comes 4 damage, which would kill off the Fairgrounds Warden if he chose to block, but Vince is just going to take the 4 because he can't afford the Ferocidon as well. Vince draws for turn, and he's got to figure out something fast, because the Gitu Lava Runner and the Chain Whirler are lethal next turn. However, he's got Collected Company, and a good Collected Company can turn this game around. And Vince decides to pass the turn back as Matt draws. Matt is thinking, what does he have in hand? But that's not what you can really think as a red player. You've got to go all in. You've got no other option. It is swing for the fences. But here comes Collected Company, and the roulette wheel spins. Will Vince find something that can help him survive this match? A Reflector Mage. That is definitely something that will help him survive this match. And a Spell Queller. Now, unfortunately, Spell Queller has nothing to tuck underneath it, but it's still a 2-3. And Reflector Mage is going to be able to bounce one of the Gitu Lava Runners or the Chain Whirler. I'm pretty sure it's got to be the Chain Whirler here, because then he'll be able to block the 2 Lava Runners and kill off Matt's team and prevent him from having a play next turn with that Chain Whirler. I don't know what Vince is really waiting for. It's pretty much that play. Unless he wants to double block the Chain Whirler and go to 1? Vince really, really taking his time here on what seems like an obvious play. Yep, he's going to bounce the Chain Whirler. He's made that decision and block both the Gitu Lava Runners. And then go to damage? I mean, I guess Matt could shock the Reflector Mage, but at this point, all he needs is 1 land, and Raminut Ruins, Shock, and Chain Whirler are lethal damage. Vince plays his land for turn, and at this point, I mean, Gitu Lava Runner is really dangerous, but he has a blocker with the Fairgrounds Warden. It might be time to start going on the offensive. He's got a long clock ahead of him, and most of his creatures are weenies that need to start doing that cumulative damage. Vince looking at his Spell Queller, and unfortunately, Matt has just a lot of hasty creatures, so the wrong combination could be lethal at Vince's face. Vince decides he's got to swing in. He's got to get that clock down, but he doesn't swing in with the Reflector Mage, going in for 3 damage, bringing Matt down to 15. And end of turn, Matt plays out that Wild Slash. It's going to deal 2 damage to Vince, and it is going to hurt because Matt has the Goblin Chain Whirler in hand. All he needs is another mountain, and that Raminut Ruins is live. Vince really reading that Wild Slash, but he goes down to 3 and passes the turn. Unfortunately, it's not another land for Matt. So he passes the turn back. The Goblin Chain Whirler still in hand, unable to be played because of that Reflector Mage. And Vince plays out Selfless Spirit, which is going to do some really bad math to Matt's life total. And going to prevent stuff like Lava Coil from killing off that Fairgrounds Warden. Vince, clearly on the offensive here, swings in for 4. Matt goes down to 11. He needs some action. He needs some damage. And he's going to start off with a Searing Blood that's going to target the Selfless Spirit. However, in response, Selfless Spirit is going to sacrifice itself, meaning that Searing Blood fizzles. Matt has drawn for turn. Is it Chain Whirler time? Is it? Could it be? It looks like it. It is Chain Whirler time, and it comes whirling in, dealing 1 damage down to Vince. Vince is at 2 life. One mountain off the top for Matt is lethal, and Matt would keep him in the match. Matt taps one red. What does he have? It's a Soul Scar Mage. Wow. So, Matt played those in the wrong order, which would have effectively neutered Vince's team. And I don't know if he's kicking himself, but I'm kicking myself just in case. Because Deputy of Detention comes down, and instead of swinging in for 2, Vince is swinging in for 4, bringing Matt down to 6. He needs a mountain. He desperately needs a mountain. But it's a wild slash. Is that good enough? It is not. Lazo Tap Plating makes Vince and permanents he controls hexproof until end of turn and gives it a 1/2 creature. And Matt might have 1 turn left. He's going to have to chump block with the Soul Scar Mage just to stay alive. But it looks like Vince might have lethal, because he just drew Deputy of Detention. And that is going to exile the Soul Scar Mage. And that is game, set, and match. Oh man, if only Matt had played the Soul Scar Mage before the Chain Whirler, that would have changed completely, because all he needed was one mountain. One mountain. However, it might just be that he's really new to the deck and he didn't know how to sequence the plays correctly. That happens sometimes. It's still FNM, guys, but what a game and what a match! That was just, I felt so bad for Matt going in there. However, that's it for this time. We've got one more round left, and that's going to be Vince in the finals. But after that, guys, get this. I filmed a Team Unified Pioneer, and blows me way out of the water. The uniqueness of the decks, everything is just going to be freaking awesome. So stay tuned for that stuff coming. But if you like this content, hit that notification bell, hit subscribe, and check us out on Instagram. And if you want to support the content that I'm making, check out some of the links in the description. But until next time, may all your packs